Welcome to Boiling Point, the podcast to motivate ever-evolving entrepreneurs and forward-thinking movement pioneers. Our hosts, filmmaker Greg Hemmings and executive coach Dave Vale, are turning up the heat in the world's business communities. Our interviews with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and movement makers are raising the temperature of inspiration. Live from the hottest studio in this quadrant of the universe, here are Dave and Greg.
Hey Dave, how you doing, man?
I'm a little harried, Greg. I've been rushing around, driving kids here, there, and everywhere. I don't have a regular backdrop here. I'm at a different...
I literally have a spider hanging off my microphone. Can you see? I'm playing him like a yo-yo right now. Here we go. There we go. Look at that. So if you're watching the Boiling Point right now, you can see my my little spider friend. I've decided, because it's such a beautiful day, I'll put him back on the microphone, that I would take the podcast outside today, Dave, and because you know what, it's rare that we get such beautiful weather, so here we are.
Here we are. Hey, here's news for you, and you'll appreciate this more than anyone. And I don't know if Chris knows, our guest knows this about you, but what do you love doing more than anything? Like not drinking, but just like what kind of activity? Not sailing.
Yeah. Well, Dave, I mean, there's multiple answers to that.
Let's think when we first met. When you're away and you want to relax. We're in Bangor, Maine.
We're drinking a beer or sitting in a hot tub. What's going on? Is that what it is? Did you get a hot tub?
We got a hot tub.
Okay. Well,
nice.
Congratulations, Dave.
I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I had to get a boom truck and put it over a house, and oh my gosh, get our whole deck reinforced. But I was thinking of you, and I was thinking how much you and I'll enjoy sitting in it and looking at it.
Well, listen, I do have a mission in life for people to think of me when they think of hot tubs. So that is awesome. And you know what? There's no natural segue into our incredible guest, Chris Kallal here, except for the fact that before you came on, Dave, Chris and I were talking about how incredibly hot it is right now in Edmonton. Like there's a heat wave going on, and we're talking about the hopes that it doesn't dry up and the forests don't catch on fire again. How they have, previously Fort Mac and what's the Slave Lake, Great Slave Lake, Chris, that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, and which is a good segue for Chris's company, which is Wild and Pine. Which the little I know about Chris and his company is they're doing some really, really cool work, helping companies like ours, Dave, neutralize our carbon, our greenhouse gases, if you will, and by planting trees. But they're doing so much more as well. So I'm really, really excited to kind of dig into this. And any business that adds to the positive impact of our natural environment is one that gets me really excited. So Chris, welcome to the Boiling Point, man. It's been a few weeks since we met, or maybe a couple months now, and I saw your company's name pop up when you neutralized, if you will, the B Corp national gathering a few weeks ago, and I'm just stoked to hear what you guys are up to right now, and welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm incredibly happy to be here. The work that we're doing here, it's just like your office there, Greg. It's primarily in the great outdoors. So that's really the foundation of our business, is to help our natural legacy continue and thrive into the future.
That's awesome. So why don't you let people know a little bit about Wild and Pine? How you got your start. We're always super excited to hear about founder stories, about how you got here, and the impact that you're making specifically in a province that might not be as sophisticated in your space as perhaps British Columbia, as an example, your neighbors. You're kind of in a niche market, which I suppose we all hope is not a niche market for very long, as more and more people really start investing in this. But tell us the story of Wild and Pine.
Yeah, so I'm the founder of Wild and Pine, and I'm also a professional forester. And why that's important is that I'm actually regulated to work on behalf of the environment as well as the public. So my practice is, the intention of my practice is to communicate and practice relevant science as it applies today, and so we can protect our forest resource for future generations to come. So it's a really interesting position now, especially in 2021, where so much emphasis and attention is really directed on our environment. And forestry has been a practice for many years, but forestry is changing. Perspectives are changing, industry's changing. So it's really, I guess, honorable and interesting space to work in, because I think, the foresters of our generation are really kind of, leading that change as it applies to, the rest of the public and the values that kind of we have as a nation, not just, the timber values as well. So, excuse me. History of Wild and Pine, we're actually over 10 years old. So I started my business actually in my second year of university at the University of Alberta, which is something that I would highly not recommend anybody to do. It was certainly a challenge, but we started the business when we saw a lot of changing regulation coming down the pipe in oil and gas. To restore our legacy oil and gas wells back to equivalent land capability and equivalent forest land capability. So it was really a natural fit for a professional like myself to kind of dive into that world. And as you know, like, Alberta is a very entrepreneurial and innovative community. So it was kind of a natural progression for myself to kind of go down that road. And really, like, I've always been an entrepreneur. Like, I've been, practicing free market capitalism, ever since I was a young kid, whether it was, shoveling sidewalks or, setting up contracts with neighbors for snow or their lawns. So I've always really kind of had that entrepreneurial bug within me. So I wouldn't say the last 10 years have been, a breeze or anything like that, or have been, extremely successful. But I can say that, I've learned a lifetime of lessons, in the last 10 years before, the tender age of 30 as well. So it's a really interesting environment for myself to be in and to practice in, because in those last 10 years, before the age of 30, like, we're going through our second recession, right? It's really difficult to lead a company that its primary industry is the volatile industry of oil and gas, right? Even though we're the good guys, we're going in there and restoring some disturbed landscapes, but it's been a real challenge for us to find our lane and really be successful in it, because we've always had to adapt and pivot so many different times. So our primary business has always been in environmental restoration, but then over the last 3 years, we've really kind of made a commitment to focus on technology, and how can we really leverage exponential technologies to make a positive impact on our landscape. So over the last 3 years, we developed this technology, what we call BioPrism. And BioPrism is an advanced vertical greenhouse for tree seedlings. So it's actually first of its kind in Canada, and likely beyond, where we actually grow tree seedlings in a 100% artificial environment. And we also do it in a vertical environment. So we're not just using like standard, horticulture grow lights, but we're also using like advanced programmable multispectral lighting. So the unique element to that technology is actually we can mimic any solar spectrum on the planet. So if I want to be growing a tree seedling for a site north of Fort McMurray, I can mimic that site and climate conditions within my greenhouse, June 17th, 2017 at 4:34 p.m. if I want to. So we're really trying to give our seedlings every chance of survival as possible by conditioning them to the sites that they're going to be outplanted. To take that one step further, if we want to be growing tree seedlings for a site in Ontario, the United States, China, Peru, anything, our technology can really, adapt to those environments and produce. So we're actually located at the Edmonton International Airport's Alberta Aerospace and Technology Center and Sustainability Campus. And that wasn't by mistake. We know that we want to be bringing, a real global symbol of sustainability, which is a tree seedling, right front and center to an international gateway, but also have access to those international markets that are really rapidly, forging sustainability initiatives forward. first and foremost, like Canada's 2 billion tree commitment over the next 10 years, it's certainly a significant commitment, but there's countries like China that have been planting 2 billion trees every single year since 2016. So the global demand for tree seedlings is compounding year over year. So it's a really exciting space for us to be in and really develop that greenhouse technology so that we can hopefully, be a real big part of our, sustainability and environmental movement, every single year as we move forward. And then more recently, over the last 18 months, we developed Wild Pine Sustainability, which is really the entity that focuses on climate action. So I would say, within the last year, I don't want to say we've had like an identity crisis, but are we an environmental restoration company? Are we a technology company? Are we a land reclamation company? And it's actually no to neither of those. We're actually a climate action company. Every single action that we do, whether it's for a client in oil and gas and forestry, or on the sustainability front, helping an organization achieve like a carbon neutrality or net zero goal, everything that we're doing right now is really focused on future generations and climate. So we've actually become Canada's first full circle nature-based solutions carbon offset provider in doing so.
Chris, can you, that's a lot to try to process. So, and like you're right on the forefront. And so Greg would be, closer to probably understanding a lot of this in terms of just from a layman's perspective, like let's start with the tree sealing. Like what is that? I mean, I think I know, but I don't know. And I'm kind of curious.
It's a really good question. So I'm not too sure. I guess, when I was young, I don't know if they do this, in other parts of Canada, but those tree seedlings that they give out to grade 1 students, those little, 8-inch, 8 to 10-inch seedlings that have like a little kind of peat plug on the bottom. That's what we're growing in our facilities. So, we have the ability to not only grow like a coniferous or a deciduous tree, but we can be growing shrubs and a different variety of species within our facility as well.
And I remember doing that with Scouts. We had Trees for Canada. I don't know if you remember that, Dave, or not, if you were in Boy Scouts or not, but every year we'd get trays and trays, and there's forests around St. John, up by the hospital, in fact, that every time I drive by, the trees are huge now. That I tell the kids, I planted those, and they came from little seedlings this big, and that's what it. Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
I was going to say, so you grow them, to be durable, and then what you ship them to whatever organization or municipality, or like who's the customer?
Typically, our customers right now are oil and gas or forestry clients, but then also Wild Pine is its own customer as well. So we're executing like nature-based solutions, carbon offsets, or environmental regeneration projects as well. So typically, like we'll be our own customer, and we'll actually be going out and planting those tree seedlings and maintaining that site to become a future forest over time.
Oh, cool. It's funny, like when you think of how oil and gas gets a real, can get painted with this brush, but yet they're clearly trying to do some good as well, right? And it's probably not well understood or not maybe recognized.
You're right. And Dave, to your point earlier as well, like we are right in the heart of, industrial development in Canada. So I'm not going to like skirt around the issue that we have a legacy that needs to be dealt with, and that legacy is not just hurting Alberta, but it's hurting all of Canada as well. We need to turn that reputation around. Like our identity is really defined by nature across Canada. So you're right, oil and gas is doing a lot of really great work. If you're not going to go out to a field office or in downtown Calgary and find someone that doesn't care about the environment. However, there's been a disconnect, and we need to be doing more. We really need to showcase to the rest of the global community that we do care about the environment, and we are going to clean it up, and we are going to clean it up now. It's vital. So much of our future is really tied to the global perception, not just of an average citizen, but the perception of banks and financial institutions and partners and technology providers. Companies want to do business with other businesses that are doing good, and Alberta businesses and oil and gas, we struggle with that right now. We are making some incredible headways, but we can't lose sight that the product that we're producing isn't just a liter of gasoline or diesel. It is a very public-facing product, and with the access to the internet and all the different rhetoric going on, we need to make sure that our message and reputation is crystal clear and pristine.
And I think it's really cool. Like what I love about it is, like you said, you're right smack dab in the middle of of our industrial and oil and gas sector. And I think that's why I'm really excited about your company, amongst many other reasons. But the fact that you're really a renegade, but also you're not on the side of trying to make change by throwing rocks. What you're doing is through allyship of some sorts, is helping fix up a mess in a way. And I think that's a really good approach right now in such a divisive world that we're living in. And I'm curious, amongst your, let's say, your environmental circles outside of Alberta, maybe internationally, that you're in, what's the vibe on having clients in that space? My company, same thing. We're a B Corp, and we've got resource development clients, and we don't struggle about the clients. We do choose which projects, however, are relevant and fix and meet our values and whatnot. But for you, has there been any interesting feedback or discussion points on that?
Yeah, so a little bit of background. When we first started developing Wild and Pine sustainability, we asked that very question: is our head office with a postal code here in Edmonton going to hinder us from doing business with other clients, whether they be across Canada or international clients as well? And we thought about it quite seriously, and we have already experienced some hesitations and bias towards working with an Edmonton-based company. However, we know that our job right now at the forefront, it's 100% about restoration. It's 100% about the environment and 100% about the forests. Every project that we do is beneficial and it is positive. So really those perspectives don't matter to Wild and Pine, because every single job that we do and every single day that we put in, we are making a positive impact. Luckily, like, we haven't, encountered a situation where the client, has, expressed some interest or, some pretty obvious disdain about, who we're helping. We certainly don't want to be enabling environmental degradation by, hiring Wild and Pine to do this so that we can do that over there. We're certainly very aware of that, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to communication. We really need to be effectively communicating the role that Wild and Pine plays, and the role that Wild and Pine plays, not just for our client, but for the rest of Canada. We can develop our natural resources sustainably. We certainly have, not Wild and Pine, but Alberta industry certainly has some communications challenges that we really need to address and get over.
It's like, I'm so happy to hear that, and it is neat to hear, like, you're really clear on your purpose and what you guys are about and what you're accomplishing. And I feel like, Greg, I feel like a few years ago you had some maybe more left-leaning friends concerned about some of the projects you guys were in, or didn't you run into that? Because it just seems like there's so much more to every story, and it's easy to throw rocks, as you pointed out.
I like using that. It's like throwing rocks. And it's funny, Chris and I both, well, and Dave, Christy O'Leary, of course. And Christy seems to be in the middle of all of our podcast guests somehow, Dave, which is amazing. But Christy and I have talked about throwing rocks over many, many years. And in fact, even I think a few episodes ago, the last time we had Christy on, I think we talked about that, Dave, about.
Well, she's starting to use a different term, isn't she?
She used to be a rock thrower, but now she said she's becoming a little bit more like Greg Hemmings, so whatever that means. So instead of pushing people away, through our activism, we're pulling people into the middle. But it's just like what you're saying, Chris. It's a communication storytelling issue where at the end of the day, 100% of what you are doing is for the forest and for the environment, right? That's all you're doing, and with whatever partners necessary. And but this is the type of thing we have to navigate, all of us as business owners, when we work in with clients that might not be working in industries that really groove with our values, but at the end of the day, you have to make the best decisions for to make the most positive impacts, and I guess that's the art of being a business owner, is navigating those waters.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm curious, Chris, like, given your entrepreneurial spirit and your relatively young age, you got lots of career, lots of years ahead of you. What are the biggest lessons you mentioned? Kind of the pivots and all these things happening. What are the biggest, or maybe the biggest lesson in the last decade for you as an entrepreneur?
Really have to trust my instinct. Day in, day out, I go to bed, thinking about the business and about the current position, and I wake up thinking the exact same thoughts. As you know, like being a business owner, it really, consumes all of, every minute of every day. So there's so much resources out there and so much great, help from the community that, we can go out and, we're in a changing environment. We're in a changing business climate that you or myself, like, I know my business best, that, just because, in a book somewhere or an article it says to do this, we really have to be, trusting our instinct, because, things are just changing. What the business environment looks like in June 2021, I bet you it's going to be 100% different in September. There's so many different, crazy things going on, COVID, being one of them, but that is 100% true that, we can't really kind of sit back and relax and, go by what the textbook says. I have to trust my instinct and go with it, because I have a team of people behind me that are also relying on me to trust my instinct and make that call as well. We can't sit back and take our foot back off the gas pedal.
That's
what I like with that is no one knows your business like you do, and I think it's easy to come in from the outside. And I don't know about you guys, but I have been guilty of this, and I've also received all these great ideas for my business. Dave, you should do this. And it's like, I kind of feel like I'm navigating okay. You know what I mean? And if I really need your advice, I'll certainly lean into it. But I think we all have good advice for others. And then the other thing is, you can't, there's so much good information out there, but not everything's a fit for your business, depending on, and Greg and I talked about the push to, a lot of times in the business community, entrepreneurial community, to scale and, more employees, more headcount and all that kind of stuff. And or get your funding going and get your first series going. And that's, it's not for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. And Chris, as we come to the end of our half hour, what are ways that other businesses can get involved? Because we talked about big industry hiring you guys for bringing repairing the earth that had been previously damaged. But like I mentioned earlier, the B Corp meeting that we just had, the online meeting, was totally offset by your services. So how could Dave's Vision Coaching or Hemmings House engage in your offerings?
Yeah, so when we developed Wild and Plant Sustainability, the purpose of that entity was really to democratize sustainability. You're not going to find, a person across Canada that doesn't want to plant a tree. Sustainability and climate change are all over the news. It's right in our face and every avenue of social media as well. But there's been a real disconnect on, like, how can a small business, on the corner participate in the same kind of action that a large entity is doing across the landscape as well. So the purpose of what we've been doing is to really democratize that. So in our services, essentially, we engage with that client, understand their emissions, even if they know them, and even if they don't, that doesn't even matter as well. Working with Wild and Pine, any kind of organization or even individual or household level can either choose to purchase offset markets through our entity, but also engage in reforestation, so they can contribute to a regional reforestation and tree planting program. where that forest will actually grow into a future forest and be protected over time as well. So the project that we are working on earlier this week, and that I'll be heading back out to later today, is in partnership with the Nature Conservancy of Canada. So we're planting 55,000 trees on this one site that was a former agricultural use, and we're bringing it back to a central mixed wood forest like it once was before it was turned into agriculture. So we're offering solutions that really any kind of business or individual or group can participate in.
Do you have any like how would people, well, first off, people that want to learn more about Wild and Pine and you, how do they find you? And the second part of that question is, while they're looking for it, do you have many before and after pictures? Like, it must be really pretty amazing to see like just the visual on the impact that you're having in certain sites.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if anybody wants to learn more, they can go to our website, wildandpine.ca, and look at the Take Action section of the website, and then choose to participate in any one of those ways that are listed on the website. There, this year, we're just kicking off our restoration project. So as you know, trees grow very slowly, so there isn't going to be much kind of visual change, but there's many elements that we're actually implementing right now to monitor those sites over time and kind of give that customer that that engagement and that experience, so that they can really see and potentially touch and feel their investment into regenerative forest project as well. So we're trying to make it as kind of interactive and real for the consumer as well. There's so many opportunities out there with other businesses that that are planting trees, but all those trees are getting planted in other parts of the world. A lot of the feedback that we received is that if a company wants to be making an impact, we want to be doing it in our own backyard. We have enough problems of ourselves that we really need to solve first as well. So we're really trying to provide that opportunity that every kind of investment that a group or an individual wants to make, that's actually leading to a benefit in a Canadian forest.
It's incredible, Chris. Thank you for what you do, man. It's awesome. Really inspiring.
I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks so much. I loved hearing about it. And Greg, I'll never drive by the hospital or university without thinking of you. And
also, when you drive to the Irving Nature Park, if you look down on the right where the tree maze is, I planted. I was part of a five-person crew. I planted all the trees there, helped with the maze. They're little seedlings. Now they're massive trees.
They are massive. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Learn something new about you every day, buddy.
Oh, there you go. That's awesome. Well, guys, have a great one. And Chris, thanks again for being on the Boiling Point.
Thank you so much. It was a fantastic experience. I look forward to continuing the conversation into the future.
We'll have you back again. Cheers.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Boiling Point. Remember to rate and subscribe to us on iTunes and follow us on Twitter at Boiling Point Pod. To see more from Dave Vale, check out leadershipunleashed.ca or visioncoachinginc.com, and on Twitter at Dave_Vale. And to catch up with Greg, visit hemmingshouse.com and at Greg Hemmings on Twitter. Thanks for listening, and remember, keep that pot boiling.